Hello, everybody. I'm Arturo Robertazzi, and I work at botiss. Today, in this webinar, we are going to discuss portfolio of botiss, so all the products with a focus on certain products such as Cerebon, Mucoderm, and the Jason membrane. So, first of all, welcome to botiss. Here you see a slide with all the products. I want to point out something I think very important about this, the idea behind having such a wide portfolio. The idea is that we believe that not single bone or a membrane can be used in every clinical situation. Simply put, no biomaterial is actually perfect. So about this, we believe that the best is to offer you a wide range of biomaterials so that you can choose the best combination for a specific clinical situation. That's why we have three types of bone: bovine, synthetic, and human, two membranes, matrix as an alternative to soft tissue graft, etc. In this webinar, I will talk, as I said, mainly on Cerebon, Mucoderm, and Jason membrane, but I will give you an overview of all the products. So to have a schematic view, I will show you the botiss wheel. You see on the left side of the slide, you see the hard tissue products. On the right side of the slide, you see the soft tissue products. So we have hard tissue products, we have a fine bone, Cerebon. The main characteristic is long-term volume stability. And I will give you more details about this in a second. If you want to have some more, let's say, biologically friendly or a product with a full remodeling behavior, then Maxasorb is the product. It's a synthetic. I will not talk much about the human line, but of course, the MaxGraft line is the closest biomaterials we have to human tissue. It's human donors. So it's a third option for bone biomaterial. On the right side, the soft tissue products, so two hemostats, Jason fleas and collagen for protection, and as you will see, for much more than just stop bleeding. Two membranes for protect, and the Jason membrane with different properties, like for example, different degradation time. And then one of our star products, Mucoderm, which attracted a lot of scientific interest, our solution as an alternative to the soft tissue graft of the patient. Of course, you may say, well, this is a lot of products, and the question may be, what do I use when? To answer that question, we put online a couple of years ago the indication matrix, which is a guide that will support you into the choice or for the choice of the best biomaterial combination for your clinical situation. You will find there about 100 clinical cases that you can access through the products or a specific technique, plus 50 or more tutorial videos and a lot of information. So the indication matrix is a support for your choice of the best combination for your clinical situation. Along with the indication matrix, we have a range of webinars, about 40 webinars online on our platform, botiss Academy, free, you just have to register. Recorded with the most or among the most renowned clinicians in the world. I will talk more about this. There you will see surgical techniques, application of a product, follow-ups, how to solve certain problems. So these webinars are really recommended by us because they are very informative and very useful also for your daily practice. You may ask, okay, how did you get that? I mean, we have a lot of clinical experience as proven by the hundreds of clinical cases on the indication matrix. We have a solid scientific evidence have, as you see in the slide, more than 300 scientific contributions published. To achieve such numbers, to achieve such an outcome, a company needs to have a strong interaction with clinicians and researchers. As you see here, botiss has a collaboration with about 75 institutions in the world. And this, as a consequence of this, we have at the moment an impressive number of ongoing studies, more than 100 ongoing studies, which will include several of our products. So botiss is always interested in a collaboration with a researcher, an institution, or even with a clinician for share on the indication matrix a clinical case. So please get in touch with us. At the end of we'll give you some contact details so that we can perhaps start a collaboration together or publish one of your clinical cases on the indication matrix. After this brief introduction of some of our online platform, I would like to go to the details of our botiss products. We will start with the bone regeneration, and I will talk mainly on Cerebone. I will give you some details about MaxAsorb, our synthetic product. I will skip entirely the allografts line. If you want to have more information about the allografts, so the MaxGraft line, bone blocks, customized blocks, granules, please get in touch with us. So let's get to Cerebone. Cerebone is our bovine graft. It's been in the market for more than 10 years now, and so it's a very reliable product. When we talk about Cerebone, or when I talk about Cerebone in various events around the world, I normally start with this slide, because this number, 1250 degrees, gives you a property that distinguishes Cerebone from a lot of other products in the market. Why is this so relevant, and why we put that number there? Well, imagine this. A few years ago, the botiss staff, or Dr. Dacian Tadic, who then together with Oliver Binderstein founded botiss, wanted to improve the production processes of the bone material present at that time. We are talking about the end of the 90s. So starting from that point, you will immediately see from the literature that one of the parameters, or the major parameter that allows you to produce safe and reliable bone material is the temperature. You need high temperature to have maximum safety. That's why the production process of Cerebone goes through a few steps at very high temperature. So Cerebone is sintered at 1250 degrees. Because of that treatment, you get a bone that is pure hydroxyapatite, 100% pure hydroxyapatite. This is already a property that is very special, because a lot of other choices on the market have some impurities. We're talking about a few percent or even a large percentage of impurities. Cerebone is pure 100% hydroxyapatite, so no organic components, non-protein component, and therefore maximum safety. Of course, you may ask, okay, you have a pure and safe product, fair enough, but is the natural structure preserved? After treating the bone at such a high temperature, do you get something that is actually real? Well, to answer that question, I will show you a video. So Cerebone is produced by cows, also whose origin is from Oceania. The bone is taken from the hip, from the femur head, then is cut, and as mentioned, is produced at very high temperatures, 1250 degrees. So we treat the bone that way, and then what we get what you see now. This animation is produced by using microscopic pictures. So you see the porosity of the bone, which is very similar to human bone. As you see in a second, we have a porosity of about 65–80%. We go inside the granule now together. It's a beautiful animation, as mentioned, taken by or extracted by microscopic pictures. So we have highly porous material. The pores are nicely connected. And this is very useful for blood uptake and the growth of cells inside. And as you see, this roughness of the surface, you see it very well here, it's very useful, fundamental for cell growth. We will see that in a second. So if we go on after the video, here you should see the application. In a second, I'm going to give you a summary of what we just seen with some numbers. Here, 1 second, here we go. So you see here the porosity of cerebon is 60–80%, similar to human bone. Other characteristics are similar to human bone. So this video and the video I've shown you just a second ago shows you that cerebon has a very similar structure to that of human bone. So, for example, in this picture, again taken from microscopic pictures, you see how nicely the cerebon particle looks like, and it's very similar to human bone. Why is that important? Well, for a biomaterial, bone material to work, you need 3 main characteristics. You need a nano, micro, macro structure for vascularization, osteoconduction, cell and growth, adhesion of cells, growth factors. Well, you may ask, okay, of course, you can see all this with microscopic pictures, you need studies to see all this, which is true. And here the microscopic picture. In a second, I will show you a way that you can use to have a macroscopic proof of the natural properties of cerebon. Let's get there in a second. So you see in this slide different scales of pores, macropores, micropores, and the roughness of the cells, which is really important for cells to grow on the biomaterial. As you can see here, the roughness of cerebon allows osteoblast-like cells to adhere and proliferate on the bone, which is fundamental for bovine bones because, as you know, bovine bone in general has a very low resorption rate. So you need roughness and therefore cells on the bone for the osseointegration of the particles and the new bone of the patient. And you see here in this amazing histology realized and made by Dr. Rossi and co-workers at the University of Bologna, you see here this histology. What is this? It's a biopsy taken 4 months after sinus lift, and you see that mainly after 4 months we have human bone. So you see the large part is human, new tissue from the patient, and the particles nicely embedded inside the new tissue of the patient. This is only for after 4 months. We still suggest to wait at least 6 months to have the perfect osseointegration. As you can see, we have a lot of clinical experience showing that even an early re-entry may be safe enough to put an implant. But please, our suggestion is to wait 6 months. This point is very important. So, just 1 second, the slide is very slow. Okay, yeah. So I hope I convinced you with this few data that we have macro, micro, and nano structure for cerebon to work perfectly. I was mentioning this is something that you can see only with studies or with a microscope, but there is a macroscopic feature that you can see with your own eyes in your practice, and this is the ability of cerebon of absorbing blood. You see here on the left side, non-sintered bovine bone has some difficulties in absorbing blood. You see cerebon is wonderful. And this is really, really relevant because blood is the source of regeneration. If your material is able to absorb blood, you will have a better, more efficient regeneration. That's exactly what happens when you use Cerebon compared to this is a very famous non-sintered bovine bone material. And here as well, you see that as a consequence of that, as a consequence of the structure of the particle, then you have a very easy, nice handling of Cerebon. This is hydrated with solution, colored solution. You see how nicely Cerebon can be handled with no problem once it's hydrated. So this property, hydrophilicity, tells you that Cerebon has a natural structure. Then it shows you a very nice clinical outcome because blood goes inside the particles, regeneration is super efficient. This is a very major property of Cerebon compared to a lot of other biomaterials you can buy on the market. Cerebon can be used basically in any situation. It's a very versatile product. So from odontology to parodontology, Cerebon is a very versatile product. If you want to exploit the major properties of Cerebon, then Cerebon can be used in the aesthetic zone for extreme stability. This is one of the major properties of Cerebon. This comes directly from the design of the bone. The idea, as mentioned before, was to treat Cerebon or bovine bone at very high temperatures. The main reason to do this as a design of the production process is to get a safer material, but as a consequence of that, we also get a pure, 100% pure hydroxyapatite, which means crystallinity. Crystallinity means that the bone particles are not easily digested by the body, so the resorption of Cerebon is even slower than other bovine bone materials on the market, which means, and this is the clinical advantage, which means higher volume stability. This is basically the principle of the design and the production process of Cerebon. I will give you a scientific proof of this by showing you 3 different studies. Here we have a nice story. So I'm going to show you 3 different studies published in 3 different years by 3 different groups. They did very similar things, which means scientists lived, and on one side they used Cerebon, and the other side they used the major competitor, the biomaterial that has been in the past the gold standard. So it's a very challenging test for us. The first study by Phoenix and co-workers basically was thought in a way that they would do a biopsy after 6 months. After 6 months, what happens? Basically, they see no difference between Cerebon and what was the gold standard in the past. In terms of bone height, new bone, residual bovine bone, you see basically within the statistical error, you have the same numbers, which is already a good result. I mean, you're saying that Cerebon performs as well as the gold standard of the past. So this is already a good result. What happens if I do the same study, but I take the biopsy after 8 months? So in other words, I analyze the result after 8 months. In this study of Panagiotou and co-workers, you see that after 8 months, again, in the conclusion they say, well, the 2 materials perform very similarly, which is a good result. I repeat myself, but it's very important. It's a good result. However, in the discussion, Panagiotou and co-workers say, well, maybe I see that Cerebon is more crystalline and therefore it's more stable. However, I couldn't prove definitely that, but to prove that, we can use a third article from Riachi and co-workers. The main difference between this study and the 2 I just shown you is the follow-up. We are analyzing here the 2 sides after 4 years. And what do you expect? Well, we treat Cerebon at high temperatures. We have a more pure material, more crystalline, and therefore significantly more stable After 4 years, you see that the major competitor, the gold standard of the past, lost 33% of its volume. Cerebrum is significantly more stable. So this is the major, or one of the major products of Cerebrum. Well, this is all, chemical and technical details. If you want to have, if you want to see the clinical outcome of this that I just told you in this webinar, please have a look at the webinar of Dami Jelusic. It's scheduled for the 27th of March. You can also look at see it after the recording. And you see is a 10-year clinical experience by one of the most known clinicians in Europe. Just to summarize, Cerebrum, pure hydroxyapatite, 100% pure, like maximum safety, high temperature treatment, preserved natural bone structure, as I've shown you in pictures, and long-term volumes. Well, that was Cerebrum, our bovine bone, certainly one of the major products we can offer. But, in some situations, your patient doesn't want to have an animal origin product, maybe even human, in some countries human products are not available. So we offer you a synthetic alternative. This is important because it goes back to our vision. No single bone can be used in every situation. MaxaSorb has some advantages compared to other products. So by using, for example, the indication matrix or having a look at our webinars, you can choose to use MaxaSorb in situations where it will perform better than other materials. I know that when we talk about synthetic biomaterials, well, there's always, or very often, this an answer from the clinician. The clinician say, I tried synthetic, it doesn't work. But our question is, have you tried MaxaSorb? Because not all synthetic materials are the same or are good. Synthetic biomaterials have been in the market for decades, and of course the first ones were not as good as MaxaSorb, for example. So this point is important. What is MaxaSorb? Well, MaxaSorb is 100% synthetic. It's completely resorbable. It enters the modeling of the bone, of the human bone. I will show you some studies about this. And it has a very specific composition. 60% hydroxyapatite, 40% beta-TCP. This comes from the literature, which says this combination of this ratio is the best ratio of biomaterials to get volume stability and a nice project. Basically, what happens is that you have in one particle of MaxaSorb, you have a continuous, homogeneous biphasic composition of hydroxyapatite and beta-TCP. Beta-TCP will be resorbed very quickly, leaving more space to the bone of the patient to grow. In the meantime, the 60% hydroxyapatite component will keep the volume. This is the idea of MaxaSorb. Long term or longer term, also the 60% hydroxyapatite MaxaSorb will be replaced by new bone. So at the end, you have a full bone. And this is the major difference between MaxaSorb and bovine bone. Now, of course, you say, yeah, well, I've seen a lot of 60-40 biomaterials in the market. What's the special property of MaxaSorb? Well, MaxaSorb has a structure that is very similar to bone. If you see pictures of other synthetic biomaterials, you will see particles that look like spaceships, very artificial, very spiky. Here you see that the particle of MaxaSorb is very similar to that. Okay. This is a major advantage. You see porosity, you see roughness of the surface, you see the connectivity between the pores. So this is very important for a bone material to work. Because of the structure of MaxaSorb, cells grow from MaxaSorb. Cells love MaxaSorb. You see here, nice, after 7 days, the particle is completely covered by the bone material. And we have some numbers here. See here, study from Professor Rothhamel. You see here Maxasorb, not a synthetic, and bovine bone. And the amount of cells that grow on this material. You see the Maxasorb performs better than any other material. And so cells love. This is very important for the regeneration of the bone when using synthetic product. We have several clinical studies on Maxasorb. However, I'm not going to show that to you because I want to focus on the absorption properties of Maxasorb, and we don't have much time in this webinar. But again, if you're interested, please get in touch with us. We will send you all the information that you require. This is a study from Calvo Girado. The idea was to see the behavior of Maxasorb with time in animals. So we test the animals after 15, 13, 60 days. You see here the behavior of Maxasorb. So at the beginning you have a little new bone and a lot of Maxasorb. Please keep in mind that there's some connective tissue there because in this study they didn't use any protection of the bone. So let's forget for a second about the connective tissue and let's focus on the residual Maxasorb and new bone. You see that after 60 days in animals, only 30% of Maxasorb is left. From clinical experience, we can say that after 4 or 6 months, based on this study, after 4 or 6 months, Maxasorb in a patient, you will find primary stability, you will find certain quantity of Maxasorb in the site, and new bone after 4 or 6 months. So you put an implant. After put an implant, after a year, 2 or 3, it depends on the patient, the complete amount of Maxasorb will be fully remodeled. This is the idea of it. So a completely different behavior compared to bovine. Where do we use Maxasorb? Well, Maxasorb can be used in implantology. Periodontology is basically an alternative to Cerabond. I would exploit this full remodeling of Maxasorb in sites characterized by a high regenerative potential, like sinus, socket, etc. Of course, I always say this to clinicians. When we make a botiss Maxasorb, we are doing 50% of the job. So we are giving you a product that works. The other 50% of the job is done by the patient's body because the bone has to regrow. So if the patient is 85 and has some systemic diseases, Maxasorb is perhaps not the best material there because the bone of the patient is not going to grow so easily. If you have a young patient, healthy patient, Maxasorb is a good choice. That's the idea of synthetic. So Maxasorb, to summarize, is synthetic, obviously safe, made in the lab. It has, as I've shown you, a very specific resorption. We know exactly what happens. So it's fully remodelable, so it enters the remodeling of the bone of the patient, and is a valid alternative to bovine. Okay, so after talking about the bone substitute, I have another half an hour or so to discuss the soft tissue products. I will go more in details, as mentioned at the beginning, when I talk about Mucoderm, but I will show you all the soft tissue products. I will start with the JSON membrane. JSON membrane is a very thin, very elastic, very easy to handle membrane. It's very thin, it's 0.2 millimeters. So this is a great advantage I'll show you in a second. And the tissue of origin is pericardium, porcine pericardium. Why is pericardium so important? Why do we stress this? Well, I'll show you a slide with two figures. A tennis ball and a number, 38 million times per year. Any idea why I put these two items together? Well, 38 million times is the amount of times that your heart beats every year. So your heart beats 38 million times a year. Every time your heart beats, is doing an effort similar to what you do if you were to squeeze a tennis ball. So basically, your heart squeezes a tennis ball 38 million times a year. Pericardium is the tissue around your heart, which means that it has to be very resistant and very elastic to do all this work. Now, we know how to transfer these properties of the pericardium into the membrane. So you will get a membrane that, although it's very thin, it's very strong, very elastic. It's very easy to handle, and I will show you this in a very super small video. And perhaps the most important point is that it has a superior barrier effect. And I will show you this in with a histology. So here you see the nice structure of JSON membrane. It's a collagen native structure from porcine pericardium. You see nice layers of collagen put together or kept together from filaments of collagen, and so it's very resistant, very elastic, and it's natural collagen structure of pericardium. This is very important because this gives all the properties to the membrane: elasticity, resistance, and long degradation time. See here from this work of Professor Dr. Rotamel, after 16 weeks, you still have basically 100% of the membrane. So this membrane has a long-term barrier function. We are talking about 3 to 6 months, depending on the patient. And the question is, do we really need such a long degradation time? And the answer is, well, we believe so. If you're using bovine bone, for example, and you re-enter the site after 6 months, and you're using a membrane that only lasts 1 or 2 months, what happens in these 4 months where you have no protection? And you can see here, from this study from Rotamel, you see 2 cases: a membrane 1 plus bone 1 on the left side, membrane 2 plus bone 2 on the right side. On the right side, in particular, you see that the soft tissue is embedding, is growing inside the particles. You see a lot of particles inside the soft tissue. What happens when you re-enter? You open the flap, you find a lot of particles into the flap. The membrane didn't do its job. On the other side, you see a nice line between the soft tissue and the particles. The particles are nicely separated by the soft tissue, or from the soft tissue. See, on the left, that's the result, is the JSON membrane. You see a nice result of the JSON membrane. That's why we can say that JSON membrane has a superior barrier effect. So why do we use the JSON membrane? Well, of course, is our premium membrane. It can work in any indication. But to exploit the amazing properties of this membrane, you can use it, for example, for large defects in the GDR, or when you need to, when you are to re-enter after 6 months or so. JSON membrane will give you the best results. This is our suggestion. Well, of course, you've been working probably for several years in the industry, so you know your work, you know your job. You can, play with the material with no problems. However, an easy handling is always useful, and I'll show you a nice video. We suggest to optimize the adherence of the JSON membrane to the defect to hydrate it for 35 seconds, 45 seconds, a minute. You can also use it dry. This is not a problem. But to optimize the adherence of the membrane to the defect, just a little hydration. Of course, you may say, well, but the membrane will stick or will be difficult to position. But see this video. It's a very quick video. The membrane is a little ball. 1 second in the water, and you get the membrane again. The memory effect of the JSON is amazing. So if you feel like it, hydrated, as you see in the video, no problem. This was about the JSON membrane. I'm just going to give you a little summary of that. Ideal for large defects, very strong, very elastic, because pericardium. easy handling material. It's very thin, so you can ah, and clinically super relevant, long-term barrier function. Barrier function, very important. With the idea of offering you several products, choose the best combination. We also offer a second method. Core Protect is different from adjacent. It's thicker, has a different consistency, and very different structure. I'll show you here. So you remember the structure of the JSON membrane, like multi-layers with nice connection between these layers of collagen. Here you see the structure of Core Protect is very different. Core Protect is collagen from dermis, has a thickness of about 0.4, 0.5 millimeters, and you see it has a very nice, dense collagen fiber structure with some semi-porous structures on the surface. We believe that this is ideal for small, medium effects, has a barrier effect of 2-3 months. So, if you know that you will re-enter after 4 months because maybe you use autologous bone or human bone in general, the Corporate membrane is ideal. Has a fast revascularization and strong capillary effect, which means you can use it also dry. When you use it dry, you can exploit the slight rigidity of the membrane to create some volume. It's just a little bit of rigidity that some clinicians really like. So again, it's your choice. We provide you with 2 different membranes. You can choose which one is the best in the situation. Again, here another picture of the membrane. You see a nice dense collagen structure, rough surface, ideal for cells to grow on the top and on the inside. Again, back to the indications. It's a very versatile membrane. However, keep in mind that shorter degradation time compared to JSON, however, longer than many other membranes, so 2-3 months. So this is an important point. It's slightly thicker, has slightly different handling. So, using the indication matrix, you can choose the best this core protect for a specific clinical situation. Like for example, as you see in the indication matrix, Professor Scullion uses it in pario intraosseous defects. So, you can choose the best membrane for a specific clinical indication, and we can support you. So before going back or going further with one of the major products, Mucoderm, I would like to talk 5 minutes about the JSON fleas and collagen, which are our hemostats. I know what some of you may think is like, okay, hemostats, come on, been there for decades. Even ancient Egyptians knew how to stop bleeding. So there's millions of hemostats in the market, which is true. But the point is that even in such a very known product, we found a small place for innovation. So our JSON fleas and collagen are different, are better. And I'll give you some details. First of all, a lot of things that you buy in the market, sorry, are not designed specifically for the oral surgery. JSON fleas and collagen are designed to be used in the mouth of the patient, to be left there with a degradation time of 2 weeks, so you can use it for different indications, as I should say in a second. Second, quality. JSON fleas and collagen are prepared with a similar process to that of our membrane. So top quality. Only at the very last, the production processes change, and instead of a membrane, you get a fluffy porous structure, or like the one you see in the slide, that is ideal to absorb blood. So this is important. Top quality. Then these products are very stable. They are hemostats. They will be in contact with blood. Once they are in contact with blood, they will be stable, which is really important. It can be loaded with active liquids, antibiotics, and other liquids that you may find in the market or the products in the market, growth factors, etc. They're easy to use and easy to cut if you need to. So very easy. And here I'll show you a study. We have several studies for both Jason Fleece and Olacon. I'm just going to show you one study because I think it's important, it's relevant. Professor Rotherman, for example, here used Olacon product in 741 extractions in patients with coagulation problems. My point being, he chose this product because he trusted this product to be used in a challenging situation like this one. And by the way, the results was amazing. The Colacon drastically reduced the bleeding in these patients, 100 patients, right? Okay. I'm not saying that you have to use Colacon when you have necessarily when you have a patient with coagulation problems. This is a clinical decision. What I'm saying is that it works. The study shows that it works. Of course, say, well, I have lots of products in the market that they can stop bleeding. True, but not every product in the market can do what Jason Fleece and Colacon can do. For example, Jason Fleece, besides stopping bleeding, can be used to protect the medullary membrane. It works. To do socket preservation, to cover the socket. We have possibly a study starting soon about this. So, you can use it for more challenging indications because Jason Fleece and Colacon have a structure that can be left inside, can be sutured, and it will be there for 2 or 4 weeks. And we know that stop bleeding, stabilize the clots, and we facilitate the regeneration. Colacon, as mentioned, can be mixed with antibiotics, and there's a few studies showing that the interaction between Colacon and growth factors is actually helpful for speed up regeneration. So the point of Jason Fleece and Colacon is stop the bleeding. Yes, they can do much more at a very effective price. They're very cost effective. So this is a very important point. And finally, my favorite product, I have to admit this, Mucoderm is my favorite product. And it's our suggestion as an alternative to autologous soft tissue graft. Well, I guess the first question is, do we really need a collagen soft tissue graft or an alternative? Or why do we need an alternative? Well, this is all well known. When you're harvesting soft tissue from the patient to cover a recession, for example, or to soft tissue around an implant, you need a second operation, of course. And this may be associated with pain, swelling, bleeding, discomfort for sure. So there may be some problems. I mean, the patient may tell you, no, I don't want a second operation. So this is obviously maybe an issue. Another issue is that maybe the patient doesn't have a good quality soft tissue or not enough. So there are some issues related with soft tissue harvesting. Keep in mind that nobody about this is saying that soft tissue harvesting is not the gold standard. So soft tissue graft from the patient is the gold standard, and in fact is the major competitor of Mucoderm. Our competitor in this area, in this indication, is the soft tissue graft. So, of course, we do have an alternative, and the alternative, in our opinion, and in opinion of a lot of clinicians, is what is Mucoderm? Mucoderm is a matrix, homogeneous matrix with a thickness of 1.2, 1.7 millimeters. Porcine dermis and mainly collagen. So the point of this slide is not to tell you how we make it, also because I cannot say that. And besides, I'm a chemist, but it's a very complicated process. The point of this slide is to say that, of course, Mucoderm is a safe biomaterial. Important, but its basic property The point is, and this is the same as with the JSON membrane, that we preserve the natural structure of the collagen. So we know how to make a membrane, or in this case, a matrix, that preserves the natural structure of the collagen. And then we transfer the properties of the tissue of origin into the biomaterial. That's why there is the alternative to the patient's tissue. And you cannot use the tissue of the patient. Mucoderm is the alternative. It's very stable, mechanically stable. And then to know this, this is a very relevant point, and is homogeneous because it's natural. You see here, for example, mucoderm on the left, two pictures of the collagen structure, and a very well-known bilayer matrix. You see in the first two pictures, you see how mucoderm is very rough, very porous, so that you'll see in a second, cells can grow on top. And in the other picture, you see that unlike the bilayer matrix, homogeneous structure is a piece of skin. That's what it is. So it's strong, resistant. You can suture it. You can do anything you want with it. We have seen it. So when I say this, it's because I did a lot with membrane congresses, for example. After 24 hours in water, I can still say to the clinician, please try to stretch it, and it's still very strong. So this is important. Here you see the structure of mucoderm from another picture. Again, nice, dense collagen structure with a lot of roughness, which is really important for cells to grow. And you see here the study. This is an in vivo, in vitro study of Kasai and co-workers. And the main point, at least for this webinar, is to show you the response of cell cultures on mucoderm. So basically, we have control, just cells on one side, and cells and mucoderm on the other side. Cells love mucoderm. They are on mucoderm and they proliferate much better than without. So you see this with different cell cultures, these four graphs. 3 days, 6 days, and 9 days, the number of cells on mucoderm is always higher than that of control. So this is very important because we need to have a very nice biomaterial, biocompatible, that allows cells to grow so that can integrate with the soft tissue around it. So here, I'll show you the results of a study of Rothamel about the behavior of mucoderm once applied in an animal model. First of all, you see the degradation path of mucoderm. Please remember that we have to translate the number of weeks from animal model into human. So we get to 6 to 9 months degradation time. So the point is that the degradation time of mucoderm is very long. But perhaps even more importantly, while mucoderm is degraded, he nicely integrates into newly formed soft tissue. So it's remodeling. Mucoderm is remodeled by soft tissue, sort of kind of behavior. So it's not mucoderm disappear and then there's some soft tissue. It's soft tissue growing on the top and from the inside mucoderm inside of the fat. So mucoderm is automatically integrated in the soft tissue. And this is a very important aspect of this biomaterial. Where do we use mucoderm? Well, of course, recession coverage. Usually in any technique, Kelly technique for sure, Sauna technique will show you clinical and evidence of that. And perhaps this is even more interesting, implantology. Mucoderm can be used around the implants and to increase the keratinized tissue, etc. I will show you some of the indications in scientific articles in a second. I want to stress one point. Mucoderm is on the market since 2011, so it's a young product. But he attracted a lot of attention, scientific attention. For example, Only in 2015-16, we organized more than 100 events internationally, featuring. In the last 3 years, so 2015 and 16, we had more than 20 scientific contributions, some of which I will show you in a second. We have at the moment more than 20 ongoing clinical studies. If we add the clinical studies, the number goes up. Involved in the studies, 50 investigators, 15 countries. You see, is an interesting product, also from a scientific. Here I show you the results of a study from Professor Scullion, who treated 54 multiple recessions, Miller class 1, 2. So this means this study, it was a very challenging test. It's not that we, as often happens in a study, we are treating a small recession and then we say the product works. This is a real life test. This kind of recessions is the recessions you find in your practice every day. And you see the behavior of mucoderm, according to the results of Professor Scullion, is really, really is amazing. Okay, so in a challenge, considering the challenging test, behavior of mucoderm is amazing. In easier recessions, you can get to complete recession coverage rate of basically 90%, 95%. We have a study of this. If you are interested in more data, please get in touch with us. This is clear. I will tell you how at the end of the talk. In this study, I really like the study from Schmidt and co-workers. It's an animal study. He compared the results of using mucoderm with soft connective tissue grafts in recession coverage. Evaluation 1 month, 3 months, 6 months. Well, this is one of the things you want to hear when you are making a product. Mucoderm is statistically non-inferior to gold standard, soft tissue of the patient. So again, for us, the main competitor is the tissue of the patient. So, and at the moment, soft tissue of the patient is better, but when you cannot use the soft tissue of the patient, mucoderm is a point perhaps more interesting in terms of thickness increase. You get basically within the statistical error that mucoderm and the tissue of, in this case, the animals work in a similar way. So you get an increase of 0.7 in this case. We see an increase of 0.8 to 1 millimeter. Study obviously different techniques around the implants, so tissue treatment implants by Robertazzi and co-workers. Basically, I think the main point of this study is the following. Sorry. Well, first of all, the biopsy and the analysis, histological analysis shows around the implants mature connective tissue and keratinized very, very good. And the average soft tissue thickness increase obtained by Saffiropoulos and Lely around the implants is more than 1 millimeter. So this is a very good result, very similar to that of autologous tissue. Well, of course, now we have gathered a lot of clinical experience, scientific experience with mucoderm, and we know that there are certain points that are very important when handling. When you open the package with mucoderm is very rigid, so you have to be aware of that. You need to hydrate mucoderm for 5 to 20 minutes. The longer in saline or blood, the better the flexibility. So it also depends on how you like to material. 5 to 20 minutes, in our experience, is the best time for hydration. You can then trim it, cut it into shape. You need to fixate mucoderm very well to prevent micromovements. Remember this, mucoderm is a biomaterial with no cells. You need to revitalize mucoderm by the supply of blood. So whenever you apply mucoderm, it has to have a nice supply around it. Okay? So this means that when you're doing recession, you should cover mucoderm 100%. In that specific situation, mucodem has to be covered completely. In other situations, mucodem can be left exposed for a maximum of 20–30% of the entire surface. Please, if you are thinking about using mucodem exposed, get in touch with us. We will support you with more details and more information about how to do that. But in a second, I will indicate you some webinars where you can see this with your own eyes. But let me just give you an appetizer of what you can do with mucodem. This is a 4-year follow-up, multiple recession Zucchelli technique done by Zucchelli. You see that in the picture. You see after 4 years, thickness, the profile, it looks beautiful. You can also have a look at the Zucchelli technique and the use of mucodem by Professor Zucchelli on the webinar page, botiss Academy. You will find it. And his statement is basically in line with what we think. Mucodem is a key, safe, and non-invasive way to release soft tissue. For us, this statement is very important, and so we are very proud of that. If you want to see how to use mucodem in socket preservation, more in general in implantology, I would suggest you to have a look at the webinar of Dr. Alessandro Rossi. It's online already, so you just have to register for free. You will see there that the best results in socket preservation, leaving mucodem exposed for maximum 30%, are obtained when you follow this rule, basically. It's a very nice webinar because it shows you a study from Dr. Rossi with some details of how to leave exposed. On the same page, so botiss Academy or botiss webinars, as you see in the link there, there's several webinars on mucodem, like the one of Giovanni Zucchelli has mentioned, Kasai, David Botton, and etc. Dr. Frosecchi for implantology. So there's a lot of information online, free for you to see how to use mucodem before you start using it, so that you can have a look how your colleagues did it and decide how to do it. So I'm finally getting to the end. Mucodem, I would say just one thing, is the alternative to soft tissue grafting when you cannot use the soft tissue of the patient. It's the alternative on the market. And I hope I convinced you that with all the information. Finally, just some colors or some art. Well, some people say that dentistry is a bit like art. So my point is, how can you paint your masterpiece if you're using only one membrane and one bulk substitute? To really paint your masterpiece, you have to go with the full botiss biomaterial experience, using all the portfolio we are offering you, choosing the best combination for the specific clinical situation. So I'm at the end. Please get in touch with us if you have questions about the webinar or questions about the indication matrix, our products, any information, please. Here you see the address of the product management of botiss. Please get in touch with us. And thank you for your attention.